The restoration of our waterways comes in all kinds of packages and from all parts of the community. When our nation began, local governments were small or non-existent. It was the local congregation that was the foundation of the community. The passion and commitment from the faith community to preserve God's creation have inspired some incredible projects on the bays and their tributaries. With the threats that come from climate change and sea level rise, the task at hand has become even more urgent. Resiliency is the key. In low-lying southern Anne Arundel County, Maryland, the West River Methodist Center wanted to do something to protect their property and give the kids who visit every year a way to connect with nature.
This project allows us to literally get people right by the water, and so we'll use it for environmental education and be able to show retreat guests and campers the possibilities that may exist within their community.
If you look at the Chesapeake Bay, obviously one big problem is sea level rise and all kinds of activities with boats going up and down the bay that has resulted in shorelines being modified and some of them being lost.
Anne Arundel County has over 500 miles of shoreline, much like this, that is threatened by rising seas, increasingly large coastal storm events, and higher and more intense rainstorms, all of which threaten our built environment and the way of life.
Conventional engineering approaches have been failing in this changing climate. This project uses a regenerative, dynamic approach to create wetlands and restore the shoreline.
We had wet spots behind the bulkhead because it was just failing. When we would have high tide events, it would come up over the bulkhead, particularly in a low area on this side of the project. And so it was a problem, and it was something that was going to need to be addressed one way or another.
I think that this project is a great example of, citizens deciding that they want to make a difference. They know a piece of land, they want to help it, change it.
I've been coming here for about 4 years, and I fell in love with this since I first came here. And we haven't been able to go into the water from all around the shoreline until now.
There's a lot more interactivity now. So in years past, we could go to the dock and we could go and kind of just look at the water, but now being able to get up to the water, we have a lot more chances to do things like nature education.
It's great that we were able to be a part of it and help make the environment better.
I think it's exciting. There's a lot of benefits, not just with the shoreline, but also you're getting the runoff from parking lots that gets filtered before it actually goes out into the rivers and into the bay. So it's a holistic approach to addressing some of the environmental issues that we have in the state.
Being resilient means working with nature, not against it.
So meeting our environmental goals in a lasting and meaningful way means that we have to use the best available science. It means that we have to reach across disciplines. We have to engage citizens and stakeholders, and we have to focus on new innovations.
These resiliency projects and the Resiliency Fund out of Maryland DNR, Chesapeake Coastal Service, are very important because they incorporate these nature-based projects that have multiple benefits.
Living shorelines are important because it's a structure, it is engineered, it is built, but it's actually following everything that nature has taught us about how land and water meet and how under stress, like a storm surge and storms, you want to create a resilient shoreline, one where waves and high water can wash right over and then wash right back out.
On a natural beach setting, you have the wave comes up on the beach profile and then it goes back down. There's no reflective energy. The energy going up is less than the energy coming back down because there's infiltration going into the actual sandy material. That's why beaches are inclined, such as this.
Basically, when you have a hard shoreline, whether it's riprap or bulkhead, that changes the hydrology completely. Basically, the waves come in and they blast it, and they bounce back and they erode. And so the kinds of things that live there are really different compared to a much gentler shoreline.
Shortly after the project was constructed, the Chesapeake Bay had a storm surge of almost 8 feet. When the tides receded, the project and the structures remained unchanged.
We know that climate change is having an effect on all the shorelines, it's having an effect on low-lying areas, and so we need to build in resiliency to make sure that we protect these assets, we protect the area, the dry land, but also make sure that the waterways are clean.
It's great to see kids getting their hands dirty and engaging the shoreline, planting it. That's really the backbone of the shoreline is the plants. It wouldn't be living without plants.
The plants bring a lot of benefits. So if you have enough plants, they can actually remove a fair amount of nutrients from the water. So one of the benefits would be that you'd have locally reduced inputs of nitrogen and phosphorus into the waterways. So it's going to improve your water quality, okay? So it's going to make it a nicer, cleaner place for you to wade, to fish, to enjoy the water. The other thing it's going to do, hopefully, is to attract fish to it and then attract birds who come and eat on those fish, and so you're going to have more wildlife using your shoreline.
When you find a native marsh, it typically isn't made up of one species, it's made up of a variety of species, each of them providing resources for food webs, for fish, for those kinds of things.
The science shows that the combination of the dynamic regenerative approach for wetlands and shorelines has multiple benefits for humans and wildlife.
Every contribution and every project makes a huge difference in our overall goals for a better Chesapeake Bay, protecting Maryland's natural resources, and for the future.
It's one of those projects that's a win-win all around. It helps us to fulfill our mission, it improves our site and the experience that all of the campers and retreat guests have when they come to our property.
This camp has showed so much respect to all of us in some form or fashion, and finally to have an opportunity to give back on such a giant scale, you know, the land and the people that are here that are interacting with it year round, you know, it feels great.